I don't understand. Why aren't you moving? What's the matter with you guys?
Those are British troops at Arnhem. They're hurt, bad. You're not going to stop. Not now.
I'm sorry, we have our orders.
We busted our asses getting here. Half my men are killed, and you're just going to stop? And drink tea?
Look, we're now facing a completely different situation. We can't leave with tanks up that road. Jerry will pick us off like sitting ducks. Our infantry is still fighting in Nijmegen. When I get here, we'll move on.
For Christ's sake, must you do everything but a book?
Our orders are to wait for the infantry. I'm sorry, but there it is.
My name is Moffatt Burriss. I was a captain in 3rd Battalion, 504 Parachute Regiment, and commanded I Company, which is one of the two assault companies that made the river crossing and captured the bridge at Nijmegen. When we were first advised that we were going to be in that battle, we went up in this tall building, a factory electrical plant building, with General Horrocks and General Browning, Colonel Tucker, and the officers from the 4 company commanders of the S3 of the 3rd Battalion, 504, and made a visual reconnaissance and looking over the river and over the pasture and the dike where the machine guns were, railroad bridge where the 20-millimeter gun was. And I remember General Horrocks explaining the critical situation of the British troops in Arnhem, and that if we didn't get there and give them some assistance at the bridge, that in a matter of hours, all would be lost. And I remember Colonel Tucker responding to a comment that General Horrocks made when he said, General Horrocks asked Tucker, can your lads do the job? Can they get the bridge? Colonel Tucker said, let me ask you a question, General. If we take that bridge, what assurance do we have from you that your tanks will be lined up for Arnhem and force? And Horrocks, and I can remember his remarks as if they were yesterday, said, my tanks will be lined up in full force, hell-bent for Arnhem, and nothing will stop them. That's not what happened. One gun stopped them. After we crossed the river and had 50% casualties in that crossing and made it up to the dike, knocked out the machine guns, and went on and captured the north end of the bridge, 4 British tanks came across. The lead tank was knocked out, and the other 3 backed up to the bridge. And I went to the commander of that task force, which was Captain Carrington, and said, why are you stopping? And he said, well, I can't go up there. That gun will knock out the rest of my tanks. I said, we will go with you and get that gun. He said, no, I can't go without orders. And I said, well, I'm giving you orders. And an American captain giving a British captain orders went over like a lead balloon. And so he said, no, I have to have orders from my British commander. Well, about that time, my frustration was turning to anger, and I can't repeat on the air what I said to him at that time, but it was not very complimentary, and they sat there all night, even after Colonel Tucker and Major Cook came and had a similar conversation with him. Why aren't you moving on? And so that was the situation up to that point. There was only one gun there, and what I couldn't understand, just a few hours before that, Horrocks had told us very explicitly, my tanks will be lined up in full force, hell-bent for Arnhem. 4 tanks went across, not all of his tanks, not 10, not 20, not 40 tanks, but 4 tanks went across. and when one got knocked out, they backed up and stopped. Why did they do that? I don't know. The information I have been told was that Carrington said his orders were to take the bridge and hold it for further orders. That was not what Horrocks told us the orders would be. So we were very, very frustrated, sitting there all night, having sacrificed half of the men of my company to try to rescue the British paratroopers. We knew what it was like for paratroopers to fight Tiger tanks. We had done it all through Sicily and Italy and the rest of the war, and it is not a comfortable feeling. So we had a great deal of compassion for the British paratroopers that were being mauled by the Tiger tanks. To send 4 tanks across, and he has an entire corps of tanks in Nijmegen, is just beyond belief. We were expecting to see the tanks roaring across the bridge at full speed, and that didn't happen. I can understand the 10 tanks that were supporting us when we were making the river crossing. Maybe I'd been told they were not there because they had expended all of their ammunition. But the rest of the tanks that were in Nijmegen, there should have been a full force of them going across that bridge and headed for Arnhem. The airborne paratroopers in Arnhem were just hanging on by their fingernails, and that was known by Horrocks and the other troops in Nijmegen. And why they would let that one gun stop them is just beyond belief to me. Well, we were in hopes that that's what would have occurred, that the war would have been over by Christmas. And had 30 Corps gone on into Arnhem and saved the paratroopers up there, that very easily could have happened. But there's just a different way in fighting between the American paratroopers. We were extremely aggressive, and we did not let anything stop us. We just kept going and took opportunities, every opportunity possible to move forward. The British seemed to be more cautious in their movements, stop and tidy up the lines and get in a better fire away for a day or two and soften up the enemy troops. But that was not our way of fighting, and we did not have the time for that. We had a matter of a handful of hours to get to Arnhem to save the troops up there, and that didn't happen. Well, a good bit of fighting had gone on just prior to the bridge crossing, and Nijmegen was going up in flames at that time. But I would say that the Allied troops there, the 82nd Airborne and 30 Corps, were in charge of the city, and they should have been able to reorganize and get refueled and been across that bridge in a matter of less than an hour's time. But there again, that didn't happen. I've never seen heard any explanation that satisfied me. I didn't get any explanation as to why they didn't move on, other than the fact that they said, well, we only had these 4 tanks ready to go. The others were in traffic jams back in Nijmegen and getting refueled and ammunition and so forth. And that was that, and the fact that the road was elevated and the tanks could not get off the road, and that they would just be targets of the German anti-tank guns, and so they needed to get them softened up before they moved on and get the forces all lined up, ready to go. They knew at the time that we just had a matter of 2 or 3 hours to get to Arnhem, and why they delayed is beyond me. I cannot explain it. Well, perhaps on the outskirts of Arnhem, they would have run into opposition, and there would have been a tank battle. But the British knew when they jumped that armored division was in Arnhem. I knew it was in Arnhem. I saw the photographs that had been taken by the Brits that physically showed the tanks. So they knew that they were going to run into that kind of opposition, and they expected that with the armored corps that they would be able to handle it. And that did not happen. And I was talking to Carrington. He was sitting in his tank, and we were having this argument about him not moving out. And when he failed to move, and I ordered him to, and he still failed to move, I cocked my Tommy gun and put it to his head and told him if he didn't get this blankety-blank tank moving, I'd blow his head off. And with that, he ducks down into the tank, closes the hatch, and sits there the rest of the night. Couldn't get to him. As I understand, Carrington denies that anybody pulled a gun on him, but his memory is not quite as good as mine if he really believes that. I bumped into Carrington at the 65th anniversary celebration at a reception that we're having for the Queen. And as he walked up, General Burriss and I were talking, and he introduced me to Carrington, and I said, "Oh, we know each other. We met on the bridge 65 years ago." And Carrington turned and looked at me, and he said, "Oh, you're the chap that called me a yellow-livered coward." And I said, "Is that what I called you?" And he said, "Yes." And said, "You didn't really expect me to follow the orders of a foreign government, did you?" And I said, "Of course I did." And then it went on to some small talk from that point. I may have been too hard on Carrington if his orders from Horrocks were to cross the bridge and hold it for further orders. That's what I have heard. Whether that is authentic or not, I do not know. But I had heard that.